I know what you're thinking. You didn't trade your snow shovel or your 9 to 5 grind for a life in the tropics just to spend your Saturday mornings scrubbing a toilet or wrestling with a mountain of laundry in 90-degree humidity. Back home, hiring full time help is something reserved for the one percenters or people with a literal staff. So, for a lot of you moving here, the idea of having a maid feels, well, it feels a bit downtown Abbey, doesn't it? It's awkward. You're thinking, do I tip? Do I eat with them? And am I allowed to walk to the fridge in my boxers? Here's the reality. In the Philippines, having a kasambahay, our Tagalog word for household help, isn't a luxury. It's the engine that keeps the middle class running. But for an expat, it's also a total minefield, and I've seen guys lose their best helpers over a $20 misunderstanding, and I've seen others get ghosted because they didn't understand the local culture of saying yes when they really mean no. Today, we're stripping away the sugarcoating from the actual 2026 legal rates and mandatory benefits to the red flags that should have you showing them to the door. This is the Real Talk Guide to Hiring Help in the Philippines. Grab a coffee or a beer, I won't tell, and let's get into the details. Hi guys, it's Dee and welcome back to our little corner of the internet. You know they say it's more fun in the Philippines, but I think it's a lot more fun when someone else is doing your laundry. Today is the ultimate guide to hiring help, and if you want to navigate expat life without losing your sanity or your favorite shirt, hit that subscribe button and join the community. We're building something real here. Now, let me give you some context before you call your friends back home because you need to understand what's included in the cheap pay that they say for hiring help here. The person you hire is called a kasambahay, and that's a Tagalog. It's a Filipino term. It literally translates to um, one who is with you at home, and it covers your general housekeeper, your laundry person, your cook, whoever is doing domestic work in your house on a regular basis. The word already tells you something about our culture. It's not framed as a servant. It's framed as someone who shares the home with you, and that matters. Now, salary. As of early 2026, the government mandated minimum wage for Kasambahay in Metro Manila is 7,800 pesos a month, and in the provinces, places like Bacolod, Iloilo, Davao, Cebu, outside the metro, of course, it's lower. You're looking at somewhere between 4,000 and 6,000 pesos being the going rate in a lot of provincial areas, depending on experience and what they're being asked to do. And to put that in USD, at current exchange rates, 4,000 pesos is roughly $70. 7,800 pesos is about $835, and that is the full monthly salary. For comparison, a part time house cleaner in the United States coming in twice a week is going to run you $200 to $400 a month minimum, and she's not doing your laundry, cooking your meals, or keeping the place warm while you're out. A full time live in housekeeper in the United States starts at $2,500 a month and goes up quickly from there. Here in the Philippines, you can have someone full time, 6 days a week, in your home handling everything for less than what most Westerners spend on eating out a few times a month. Now, here's where I need to pump the brakes before the comment section fills up with people saying I told you to underpay someone. I'm not saying pay the minimum, I'm saying the minimum exists and it's the floor, not the ceiling. Most expats I know who have great long term household help pay above the minimum, and usually somewhere between 8,000 and 15,000 pesos, depending on skills and duties. The extra money is nothing to you in USD. To your kasambahay, it's the difference between their family eating well or not. Pay fairly because you'll get loyalty that money genuinely cannot buy, and at the same time, be smart and don't overpay too much because this can actually backfire and create laziness. Now, one thing that surprises a lot of Westerners when they first get here is that having household help is not a rich person thing in the Philippines because middle class Filipino families have kasambahay. Regular working couples have kasambahay, and it is deeply embedded in how domestic life works here. And there are real reasons for that. The Philippines has a large working population and a significant portion of families where both parents work long hours. Extended family setups are, of course, common. Grandparents, relatives, multiple generations under one roof, and domestic labor is heavy. Hiring help keeps households functioning. There's also a tradition of domestic work as a form of livelihood, particularly for women from the provinces who come to cities or to wealthier households for employment. It's a legitimate career path that supports entire families back in the provinces. Dole, which is the Department of Labor and Employment here, estimates there are over 200,000 domestic workers in Metro Manila alone, with around 60% of them living in the homes of their employers. For expats, especially, a kasambahay often becomes something you didn't expect. An informal cultural guide, someone who helps you navigate the barangay, explains what's happening during fiestas, helps you communicate with neighbors, goes to the market with you, or someone you send to the neighbors so you can skip the skin tax. If you're new to the Philippines and you're a bit lost, having someone in your home who grew up here is genuinely one of the fastest ways to get your footing. And I'll say this plainly, if you are a retiree living alone in the Philippines, having someone in or around your home is also a safety consideration. It's someone who can notice if something is wrong with you, who can go get help, and who can call your family, and that's just practical. Now let's be specific about what having household help actually changes in your life because it frees up your time is vague and unsatisfying. If you're working remotely or running a business from here, your productive hours go up. You're not losing 90 minutes a day or more to do laundry, sweeping, mopping, dishes, groceries, and that's not a small thing. That's compounded over years into hundreds of hours of your life back. If you're a couple, and I'm going to be real about this one because it hits close to home for some of you, household labor is one of the biggest, most under discussed sources of friction in relationships, especially when the woman is working as well. Because somehow, even with the two people employed full time, the cooking and the cleaning and the whose turn is it conversation still lands heavier on one side. And you know which side. We all know which side. And having someone handle all of that removes an entire category of low grade daily resentment from your relationship. Not stress, resentment. Because that's what it actually becomes over time. And if you have kids here, a yaya, which is your childcare worker or nanny, is doing something extra beyond babysitting. Your kids are getting immersed in Filipino language and culture from someone who grew up in it. And that's an education you can't replicate. And if you're retired and you're here for the lifestyle, well, you moved to a tropical country to enjoy it. You didn't move here to spend your mornings scrubbing your own bathroom. Having help means your day starts the way you planned it. Now, there's also a security element that doesn't get talked about enough with this. An occupied home is a less attractive target for opportunistic theft. A kasambahay's presence in the house, especially during the day when many expats are out, is a deterrent. Not foolproof, but real. Okay, now the part your YouTube algorithm loves, the cons. And I'm going to be honest here because that's the whole point of this channel. The first one is privacy. If you're from a Western country and you're used to having your home entirely to yourself, having another person in your space or full time is, of course, an adjustment. A real one, and there's no way around it. You will need to think about what you're comfortable with, what boundaries matter to you, and whether live in or live out makes more sense for your lifestyle, and we'll also get into that in a minute. Second, you're now an employer. You're in a management role, whether you want to be or not. That means communication, setting expectations, dealing with personality conflicts, navigating language differences. Some people are natural at this, some people find it genuinely stressful, and if conflict avoidance is your coping mechanism, which by the way is a lot of foreigners here, you will have to work on it because things will go wrong and you need to be able to address them without either exploding or pretending nothing happened, and of course with the help understanding it and not taking it personally, because you know how a lot of Filipinos are. They take it personally instead of, just taking it as a constructive criticism. Third, ghosting. This is real and it happens. You hire someone, things seem fine, and then one day they just don't come back. no call, no message. And the Philippine expat community has a name for it, and everyone who has lived here long enough has a story. It's not malicious usually, it's more often that the person got a better opportunity, a family situation changed, or they were simply too conflict averse to have the conversation about leaving. Which, ironically, is the same thing I just told you to watch for in yourself. Fourth, the cash advance spiral. Helpers will sometimes ask for salary advances. Once, fine. As a pattern, it becomes a problem, both financially and in terms of the power dynamic of your working relationship. You have to set a clear policy early and write it down. Fifth, and this is one foreigners don't always see coming, family pressure on your helper. Your kasambahay may have relatives who visit, ask to stay over, or create a constant stream of financial demands on them, and that's not your problem to solve, but it will affect your helper's stress levels and focus. It's worth having a gentle conversation about boundaries on visitors and overnight guests and putting that in the contract. Sixth, the expat premium. Some helpers and some agencies will try to charge you more just because you're foreign. Don't feel guilty negotiating. You can pay fairly and still not overpay by 30% because someone clocked your accent. Now, there are four main ways to find household help here, and they each come with different trade offs. The first and honestly most reliable route is personal referrals. Ask your neighbors, your building admin, expat friends who have been here a while, Filipino colleagues, and in the Philippines, the trust network is everything. If someone you know has had a good experience with a helper or knows someone who is looking for work, that recommendation carries a real weight, and it's the way most Filipino families do it too. The second route is DOLE licensed private employment agencies. If you're new here and you don't have a local network yet, this is the safest structured option. A legitimate agency will do the NBI clearance, medical screening, and background verification for you before anyone sets foot in your home. They'll typically offer some kind of replacement guarantee if it doesn't work out. You'll pay agency fees on top of salary, but for an expat who doesn't know who to ask or doesn't speak enough Filipino to vet someone independently, that fee can absolutely be worth it. Just make sure the agency is DOLE accredited and ask to see the license because legitimate ones won't blink at that request. Third, online. There are Facebook groups for this, expat community pages, local community boards, OLX Philippines. There are also sites like mykasambahay.com where you can browse profiles with work history and employer feedback. The risk with online is less accountability. You're doing your own vetting, but the reach is wider and you can often find people with more specific skills like helpers with experience cooking Western food or those with strong English. Fourth, and this is very underrated if you're in the provinces, your barangay. The barangay captain and the local community boards often know who in the area is looking for household work. In a city like Iloilo, Bacolod, Davao, this is a very normal and respected channel. People know each other and accountability is community level. Now let's talk about the things you have to watch out for. This is a segment you're going to screenshot and send to your expat group chat, and I'm going to be specific. First thing you need to watch out for, of course, is stealing. Let me be clear about what this usually looks like in practice because most people imagine someone walking out with a TV. Real world petty theft is much subtler than that. It's coins left on the counter, a condiment that disappears, or a shirt, a food item that goes missing, small things over time. And to deal with that, install visible security cameras in common areas. This is legal and you just have to disclose it when you hire someone. Document your electronics and valuables when a new hire starts. Keep cash, jewelry, and medications locked. Second, lying and covering up mistakes. Something breaks, and instead of telling you, it gets hidden or the story changes 3 times. This happens usually most when employers react badly to honest mistakes. You have to build a culture from day one where admitting something went wrong is safer than hiding it. Overreacting to small accidents trains people to conceal things from you. Third, red flags during screening. These are the ones that should stop a hire before it starts. Vague or evasive answers about why they left previous employers, especially if the story keeps shifting, a refusal to get an NBI clearance or complete medical exam, and references who are unreachable or can't tell you anything specific about the person. asking for substantial cash advance before they've worked a single day. Those are all red flags, common red flags. Next, let's talk about documents you should ask for before anyone starts working in your home. Under the Batas Kasambahay, that's under Republic Act 10361, the employer covers the cost of pre-employment requirements, and what you should be asking for are NBI clearance, barangay and police clearance, a medical certificate issued by a government health officer, and a valid ID or birth certificate. For live-ins, especially, I'd also add a chest x-ray for TB screening and a complete blood count and a drug test. Standard, not insulting, and every professional does this. And one more thing that doesn't make many lists, your household information travels or anything about your personal life. Helpers talk to each other, so be mindful about what you discuss in front of staff that you genuinely rather keep private. Not necessarily because your helper is untrustworthy, but because you wouldn't have the same conversation in front of a stranger at a coffee shop either. Now let's talk about money and logistics properly because there are legal obligations here that a lot of expats don't know about until they're already in trouble. Current salary ranges as of 2026. In Metro Manila, the legal minimum wage is 7,800 pesos a month. In provincial areas, of course, the minimum is lower, it varies by region, and is set by regional wage boards. In practice, for experienced all-around helpers in provincial city, you're looking at 5,000 to 8,000 pesos for entry-level to competent, and 10,000 to 15,000 pesos for experienced English-speaking, Western cooking fluent help. Live in versus live out. This is a real decision and it comes down to lifestyle, not just cost. Live in means your helper stays on the premises. The law says you must provide at least three adequate meals a day and humane sleeping arrangements. The practical benefit for you is that they're there early, they're there late, they're available for unexpected situations. Budget an extra 3,000 to 5,000 pesos a month in additional food costs. The trade-off, of course, is someone is in your home, always, and if privacy is high on your list, think carefully. Live out means your helper comes in during the day and goes home to their own place. Most live-out helpers expect slightly higher pay to offset their transportation costs. You get your evenings back entirely, and the downside is that weather delays, traffic, and occasionally the message at 7 a.m. that says they can't come in today. Neither is objectively better, it depends entirely on your life. Now, what the law requires of you as an employer. The Batas Kasambahay Republic Act 10361 has been in effect since 2013. Whether you're Filipino or foreign, it applies to you, and here is what you are legally obligated to do. 1. A written employment contract before work begins. DOLE has a standard form for this. It needs to cover duties, salary, rest days, working hours, and benefits, and after you sign it, you register it at your barangay. 2. SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig contributions. These are mandatory after your helper has completed 1 month of service. The contributions are primarily your responsibility as the employer, not theirs, unless they're earning 5,000 pesos or more a month, in which case they contribute a proportionate share. 3. 13th month pay, mandatory every year, not optional. Budget for 13 months of salary and not 12. It's kinda basically a Christmas bonus. 4. 5 days of paid service incentive leave after 1 year of service. 5. 1 rest day per week, minimum. By default, that's Sunday for most households, but it can be any day both parties agree on. 6. You have to pay in cash, actual cash. The law specifically prohibits paying it in vouchers, tokens, or any other form. Payslips are expected. Violations of the Kasambahay Law carries fines of 10,000 to 40,000 pesos per offense, so this is not a gray area. You have to comply. One practical note from living here, paying a bit above minimum doesn't just make you a good employer ethically, it directly reduces turnover as well. The salary difference between the minimum and something genuinely livable is often small in your currency. The difference in your helper's commitment and loyalty? Enormous. Now, I'm going to say something here that most channels won't say. A huge number of households in the Philippines, Filipino and expat alike, do none of this paperwork. No SSS, no PhilHealth, no Pag-ibig, no written contract. Cash in hand every month, no trail, no barangay registration, no nothing. And honestly, a lot of those arrangements just run fine for years. And I'm not going to pretend that's not the reality on the ground because it really is. But you need to know the risk you're taking when you go that route. If something goes wrong, like your helper gets injured in your home, she gets sick, there's a dispute over termination, she decides to file a complaint, or she does something wrong to you, you have zero paper protection. The law does not care that you had a verbal agreement or that everyone was happy until they weren't. You can be fined between 10,000 and 40,000 pesos, again, per violation, and that's before any civil claim. As a foreigner especially, being on the wrong side of labor complaint is not a situation you want to be in. So, go in with your eyes open. The paperwork exists to protect both of you. Whether you do it is your call. Just make sure it's an informed one. Now let's talk about drivers too, because a lot of expats I know discover this option pretty late and then wonder why they spent their first year terrified of driving on Philippine roads. And look, Philippine traffic, especially in Metro Manila, but honestly in most cities here, is its own category of experience. The lane markings are more like suggestions. Tricycles appear from places that physics cannot fully explain, and jeepneys stop wherever they want, and I can't exaggerate that enough. A personal driver in the Philippines typically earns between 12,000 and 19,000 pesos a month depending on location and experience. Metro Manila rates sit at the higher end, of course. In the provinces, Bacolod, Iloilo, CDO, 12,000 to 16,000 is more typical for a full-time household driver. What a personal driver does, of course, daily driving, airport runs, school pickups, errands, waiting on standby while you're at a meeting or restaurant, and some drivers double as a light duty assistant, accompanying you to the market, helping carry things. Some also function as an informal security presence, particularly if you're new to an area. What you need to check before you hire one, of course, valid professional driver's license, not just a regular license, a professional one, meaning they're legally qualified to drive commercially. Clean driving record, drug test, absolutely non-negotiable, and I don't care how nice they seem. NBI clearance, references from previous employers, and specifically familiarity from your area. Someone who knows the streets of Bacolod is not automatically someone who can navigate Manila and vice versa. Red flags, history of accidents or traffic violations that they describe casually, evasiveness about previous employment, especially if there's a gap they can't explain, any indication they want to borrow the vehicle for personal use early in the working relationship, and the one that's so easy to miss, someone who is overly familiar too fast. Warmth is a Filipino trait and it's genuine, but over familiarity within the first week that's pushing on your car, your schedule, your household, that's different and you have to know that. Now, the honest Grab comparison, if you're in a major city and you only need transport occasionally, a few times a week, not daily, Grab is often the smarter financial choice. It's reliable in Cebu, Manila, Bacolod, and most major urban areas. You're not paying a monthly salary for occasional trips. But if you are daily driving in an area where apps are less consistent, doing, early morning or late night trips, or you just genuinely value having someone familiar with your schedule, your preferences, and your home, a trusted driver is a quality of life upgrade that people who have one will tell you they'd never give up. Now, quick fire section, but important, especially for those of you who are new to the Philippines or haven't had household help before. Feed your staff well. This sounds basic, but it matters enormously here. The Kasambahay Law requires 3 adequate meals a day for live-in workers, but beyond the legal requirement, sharing your table or making sure your helper eats the same quality of food as you is culturally significant. It communicates respect in a way that salary alone doesn't. Learn a few words. Salamat means thank you. Magaling means well done. Pakiusap means please. That's all in Tagalog. Your kasambahay almost certainly speaks some English, but making even a small effort in Filipino or in the local dialect lands differently than you think. Next is understand pakikisama. This is the Filipino cultural value of maintaining social harmony. In practice, it means your helper may say yes when they mean no. They may say everything is fine when it isn't. They may agree to a task they don't know how to do rather than admit they need guidance. And this is not dishonesty necessarily. Rather, it's conflict avoidance and it's deeply ingrained in our culture. Your job is to create an environment where honesty is safe. Ask open questions and follow up and be open to guide them or teach them things they don't know. Next, again, Christmas bonuses beyond the 13th months are not legally required, but they are deeply culturally expected. A small additional Christmas bonus or a gift or New Year cash, These things build a kind of relationship where your helper will work for you for 10 years and become part of your household in the real sense of that word. And the last one, and maybe the most important, treat your household staff with dignity. They are employees and not servants. The laws back this up. The Kasambahay Act explicitly prohibits any treatment that degrades the dignity of a domestic worker. But beyond the law, it's just who you are as a person. The Filipinos around you are watching how you treat the people who work in your home, and it says everything about you. So, let me bring it all together. Having household help in the Philippines is legal, affordable, culturally normal, and for most expats who try it, genuinely life changing. The key is doing it right. Know the law, pay fairly, set clear expectations from day one, get the paperwork done, and treat the people in your home with the respect they deserve. The cost is a fraction of what you'd pay anywhere in the West. The quality of your daily life can go up dramatically, and if you find the right person and you're a good employer, this can become one of those things about living in the Philippines that you can't imagine living without. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you already have household help here, and what's your experience been? Drop it in the comments, the good, the bad, the stories. If you've had a kasambahay ghost you or a driver who was absolutely worth every peso, I want to know. And while we're in the comments, are you curious about Maid with benefits arrangements? You know what I mean. The setup where the line between kasambahay or maid and something else gets a little blurry because it's a real thing that happens here and nobody talks about it properly. If you want me to do a video on that, drop it in the comments and let me know. No judgment. That's literally what this channel is for. And one more thing, a lot of you are also going to watch this video and the next question is going to be about the benefits. SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, how to actually register your helper, what you pay, what you're entitled to, and honestly, whether anyone in the Philippines is actually doing this correctly. If you want me to make that video, let me know in the comments below. If I see enough of them, that video probably goes up next. And if this video helped you, share it with someone who's planning to move here. This is exactly the kind of thing people need to know before they arrive. And subscribe if you haven't yet. This has been Dee. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye! A personal driver in the Philippines, not necessarily primarily your responsibility, particularly